And welcome back to another laughter-packed episode of the Grumpy Gits. In this episode, we take a closer look at the changes in royalty and parliament, looking at the legacy of the Queen and the impact of her passing on the world in general, and then a closer look at the legacy Liz Truss is inheriting and how her cost of living measures will help, or not help, those caught up in the cost of living crisis. We take a sceptical look at the Centre Park's decision to boot guests to one of the Queen's funeral and ask, is this really necessary? Then in a complete 180, we look at the legacy of Winnie the Pooh, looking at the classic A.A. Milne novels now being made public domain. And as a result, we have the new Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movie. Is this gratuitous money-grabbing violence or fair game for the dark humoured? We introduce a new section, Simon Says, and in this week's episode we'll be looking at the impact of delays in access to work and the people this directly affects. We even bring in your thoughts on the issues the system currently faces. All this in our usual mayhem with the best See You Next Tuesday Chris section ever, while we help the world's unluckiest delivery driver in Dear Grumpy Gits. So sit back in your favourite recliner, grab your drink of choice and kick back with the Grumpy Gits, and remember, don't be grumpy alone. The Grumpy Gits are proudly partnered with the Disability Expo being held at XL in London on the 6th and 7th of July 2023. It's going to be an incredible event, so follow the links in the description to sign up.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever in the world you are watching this. And welcome to another amazing, trust me, amazing episode of the Grumpy Gits, the podcast that always says, don't stop, never give up, hold your head high and reach the top. Let the world see what you have got, bring it all back to you. I am your glorious host, Adam Pearson, and I, as always, am joined by three titans among men. First, still here, still grumpy, gonna hopefully set us against each other in a little bit with one of our regular segments, Mr. Chris Lee-Smith. How are you, my friend?
Week started off good, but took a downturn today.
Well, of course it did.
No, I mean, I have got a genuine reason. Right, this afternoon I was pretty bored and I was thinking, what can I do? Postman turns up, drops 3 letters through my door. One is junk mail. 2 others, British Gas and Scottish Power. Both saying I owe money from a property 5 years ago. So yeah, I was pissed off being on the phone for 2 hours with them. Apart from that, kids are back, so I'm all good.
Well, hey, freedom.
Yeah.
As someone who doesn't have kids, I don't understand that joy, but I imagine it's similar to just how I feel every day, all the time. Just waking up, being like, no one to feed, no one to have to... I mean, I reckon parents might be better actors than actors. Because I reckon as parents, you're going to sit through like a lot of bullshit. But you just got to sit and go, you know what, that is a cool leaf. And things like that. So,
it's the like Christmas pantomimes and stuff. Oh, you did great. It was fantastic, mate. You're really good. Really good.
Oh, they're absolutely shit.
And it's just dire. You know it's dire. They know it's dire. We know it's dire. Everyone's just lying.
I wouldn't do that. They'd be like, oh, how'd I do, Dad? I went up to shop and get in the car.
I have no son.
He's a proper actor, though, isn't he? He would do that to his son.
Yeah, you're just like your mother.
He's not just a proper actor. He's a prick. When you combine those two,
winning formula.
I've got 10 nephews and nieces, and I made a pledge to all of them that I would never go and see them in a school play. And they still ask me every year. And I said, no, school plays are shit. I'm never going to go.
They are. And also, we've already heard from him. He is the thunder from down under. How are you, Duncan Casburn, my good friend?
I'm doing okay. I'm feeling pretty good, but I'm annoyed with TV at the moment. That's been my big bugbear over the last few weeks. So many promising shows starting. so little delivering on anything that they've promised. I love Lord of the Rings, my favourite book series of all time, some of my favourite movies of all time. Watching the series, the story's getting there. It's starting to pick up a bit of pace now and get interesting. But it's so fake. You don't believe it. Oh, did you see the series, the episode 3?
Yeah.
And on the water and the boats, and it just, nothing looks real. It's all so obviously CG. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it takes away from that. Like, you watch the films, you're there. They spent so much attention to detail with the sword making and the outfits and trying to create actual sets that they were part of. This is all just green screens, and it just...
Watch it on a 24-inch. It's a lot... You won't notice any of that. My TV's crap.
Maybe my TV's too good. But like Game of Thrones, not the same thing, but like, how good was the original Game of Thrones series, and how frickin' boring is this new one?
Cheers for the spoilers.
The fact they're both on at the same time is like a clear indication as to the quality difference. Stuart Lee, the comedian, referred to Game of Thrones as Lord of the Rings to Peter Stringfellow.
It's so true. But it's just like, just something happen, please. It's just so tedious. It's like, again, Star Wars films, I love them, but in the prequel series, when it was all political and they're all sitting in the Senate having their arguments, and it's like, just get on with the film. It's the same with Game of Thrones. It's just all blah, 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 and nothing's really happening.
It's been a bad week for TV, both streaming and broadcast. We'll talk more about that later on in one of our segments. And finally, Simon Sampson, where are you in the world right now, good sir?
My head is spinning in the world right now. I apologise for the sunglasses, because this is what I look like at the moment.
That's what that much alcohol will do to you, Simon.
I would like to point out, I do not drink. I started new medication on Monday. I took the wrong dose. I took 15 times normal, the maximum dose you're supposed to take. And when I was driving to take the car in for a service into Loughborough...
You drove on that much drugs?
Oh, wow.
Oh, no, well, I didn't know I took the wrong amount of drugs. That's the problem.
Making friends and influencing people everywhere, Simon. Always.
Yeah. I mean, in his defence, he's already disabled. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah, so driving into Loughborough, started projectile vomiting in the car. That was fun. Did an emergency stop. Kate was beside me. That wasn't pleasant. We had to clean it up. Open the door. Out it went. People pulling over. Do you need an ambulance? No, I don't. I've just taken the wrong amount of drugs. Some own side effects.
Great way to put it. I was just taking the wrong amount of drugs. I'm okay. Yeah, really. Police now.
I'm not sure they were side effects either. I think they were just the effects.
It's like they say that anal leakage is a side effect. No, it's a fucking effect.
Yeah, projectile vomiting is not good. I've been doing it today. It's not fun. And what it got even worse, because we took the car in for a service, and I've got to take it in because it's a Motability car. It stank of sick. And so we did our best to clean it up, and we're taking it in for a service. And then I have to lie to the dealership and say, I'm sorry, it's my son's first day at school today. He's been sick all over the car, because bollocks am I going to admit that a 40-year-old man has been sick in the car just before he's dropping it off before a service.
Because
so I made up a son. So I made up a fake son and blamed him for it. And then I used my nephew's name, Matthew, to say, I'm sorry for what Matthew did to the car. And then I took Matthew out for lunch as well, my actual nephew.
If you're watching this, retweet this, get this seen by his mechanics. We want them to know the truth.
I think, as a way of apology to Matthew, you should go and see his school play.
Well, he's at university, so I'm not so sure he does a school play. He's doing sports and coaching, so yeah, he's 19 years old, so he probably hasn't done a school play for like 15 years.
Then I think you should watch all the old ones on video, and then do like a director's... We could do that when we come to yours for the live episode. We could do like a live commentary on your nephews and nieces' school plays.
Now, I bet you my mum has got a copy of every single one because she goes through every single one and records them. Actually, I don't think you're allowed to record them anymore.
I was going to say, I'm pretty certain that's illegal.
No, I think the school can record it, and you're allowed to take photos, but I don't think you're allowed to record them anymore.
You're not allowed anything which could involve somebody else's kid that could go on social media. Yeah, so photos, anything, all out of the question.
Yeah, Prince Andrew ruined that for all of us. Anyway, guys, I'll be honest. This is how I thought the show would start. I've already got a good idea of how the intros are going to go. I know I'm going to know how all your weeks have been, but Simon's throwing me a real curveball here, taking like 15 times the recommended dose of medication. And that's for a man your size as well. So that's a lot of medication.
It's going to apparently it's going to take about a few more days for it to come off, but I'm not allowed to take any more medication, obviously. So I'm going to have side effects for the next couple of days, and then I've got to go out to London for the weekend for work. So that's going to be pleasant.
I'll see you there. Chris, do we still have that I don't take cocaine thing? If we do, can we put it in? Right now.
Yeah, I'm sure it's knocking about somewhere.
Done. Anyway, gentlemen, let's rock and roll like a turd in the hole with probably one of my favourite segments of our... I mean, I love our whole show, but I have a real soft spot for this next segment. Chris, what have you got for us?
Question 1. The 4 of us decide to climb Mount Everest. After a storm, we're stranded. Sorry, climb/roll. Sorry, Simon. We're stranded. One of us has to be eaten for the other 3 to survive. Who dies and why? Let's start with Adam.
Okay, so I'm thinking who it shouldn't be me because I'm like a sun-sized Mars bar. Like
you're like a chicken wing. You're literally a chicken wing.
I won't last that long. And I reckon Chris, I reckon you'd be quite chewy and bitter.
Me? Is this your professional chef talking now?
This is Adam Pearson, Celebrity Master Chef, talking now. Yeah. You'd be chewy and bitter, like in real life, Chris.
Petrified meat. Who's it going to be? Adam? Is it going to be Simon or is it going to be Duncan?
I mean, it's going to have to be Simon. No, because he's still on drugs at the moment. He's got more chemicals than non-EU chicken running through him right now. So yeah, sorry, Duncan. It's going to have to be you, my man.
We're eating Duncan. Okay. Same question this time to Simon.
See, the thing is from what I understand, Mount Everest is quite a steep slope.
It is pretty steep.
It's pretty steep, and I'm on wheels.
Yeah.
So I think I could actually outdo the storm. I'll be through it in a few minutes, and so I'll just see you later. You'll die and just roll down.
You think you're just going to have a gentle roll down Mount Everest?
Very much so. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, you've got a puncture. You're in the same boat as us. Who dies?
That's not fair. I've got punctureless tyres. I've got punctureless tyres. I can't get a puncture.
Okay, you've got frostbite and you can't roll. So who dies? I'm going to get the answer out of you.
Some kind of man has hacked the wheels off. You are stranded.
I can't feel the feet. So I can't feel anything from the waist down, so frostbite really isn't going to affect me too much.
Who are you going to fancy eating the most?
No, that's the answer. We're going to eat him because he won't know we've eaten his legs. He won't feel a fucking thing.
Chop them off and feed them.
Yeah.
I'll get some stumps when I get back. I'll get some stumps. It'll be fine.
Eating Simon's frostbitten legs.
Juicy.
Oh. Okay, we'll move on. Duncan, what's your answer?
It's going to have to either be Simon or myself. It's going to be one of the two that goes first because we're obviously the biggest. But you're quite muscular.
Thanks.
And
well, I'm not sure that's a compliment now.
It's not a compliment right now because that's where the good meat is. So, and you're 6'4", as you frequently tell us. So what we make up for in girth, you make up for in height. And it's
exactly.
So
How much exactly have you three eating?
You're grain fed. You're going to last longer. It depends how long you're stranded for, doesn't it? You've got to plan out. If we're killing someone to eat them, we're going to think about who we're going to have to kill first, so that we don't have to kill anyone for the most amount of time following.
All right. Which part of me are you eating first?
Well, let's do this properly, because we're going to get a spike, those walking spikes, and just shove one down your throat, and then put you on a fire like a roasted pig.
Right. As long as I'm dead before you do that, that's fine.
I happen to know it's a long time goal of Chris's to be spit roasted.
And you can watch that on Pornhub.
Yeah, that's not true, but let's go to question 2.
I love how this went back on Chris for once. He's fucked.
It's your fault. You're the one that picked me. Right, question 2. From 1 to 4 in the Grumpy Gits, name who is most like and least like Batman. Let's start with Duncan.
Oh, fuck. Who's most like Batman? I'm going to go
Who's
Simon.
most and least like?
I'm going to go Simon for most like. Purely because he's got the money behind him. And let's face it, Batman's only superpower is money.
I do have a secret room in the house as well.
He does. He does. That's it.
He is at the peak of physical condition, like as a human can get. Okay, so
well, thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate that.
There's a very strong case for Simon and the money, but it's kind of countered by the
physical condition.
Are you saying I'm not in the peak of my physical fitness anymore?
I don't want to answer that.
That's it. No, because anyone in his peak physical condition would mistakenly take 15 times the dose of a medication.
That doesn't sound like Batman's IQ, to be fair. It doesn't,
does it?
I have a really important question here, Chris.
Oh.
Okay.
What Batman?
Oh.
Okay, let's go with
Adam West. Then Simon all day long. Because Adam West Batman's a fucking idiot.
Let's actually, yeah, okay. I'm going to throw it out there. Ben Affleck's Batman.
Oh. I was going to say, if it was George Clooney's, I'd be going for Adam, just because he definitely has sculpted nipples.
Okay, so 1 to 4, Duncan. You've got Simon at number 1 for being Batman.
For being Batman, just for the money side of things. I think you'd probably manage the suit best of all of us. I see Adam as more of a Robin, so probably me than Adam.
I see Adam more as an Alfred.
Okay, there's a lot of insults. Just remember who they came from, Adam. What's your answer for this one?
I will. I will. So Simon's the Penguin. Duncan's Two-Face. And you're Poison Ivy. There we go. That's why.
What have I done?
You asked the question, you prick.
You're like the instigator.
That wasn't the question. From 1 to 4 in the Grumpy Gits, name who is most and least like Batman.
Yeah, we changed it. We changed it.
Most to least. You, Duncan, Simon, me.
Oh, so you're less like Batman than Simon, you reckon?
Yeah, because I don't have the money and both my parents are alive. So I have nothing in common with Batman.
That's very good.
At all.
That's very, very good. And finally, Simon.
I'm Batman.
No.
He's so far from Batman. I can't believe you picked him.
That's right. That's number 4 now. I'm changing my order.
And that was Christian Bale. That wasn't even Ben Affleck.
See, I see. If it was Lego Batman, I'd put me first.
It's not.
Oh, I mean, Ben Affleck. Why are we going for Ben Affleck? Why? He's a shit Batman.
You asked why, You asked me to pick one. I picked Ben Affleck.
Well, it's definitely not Adam. Adam's certainly last because he hasn't got the statue. He hasn't got his money. Mum and Dad are alive.
But Batman is very smart, and Adam won Celebrity Mastermind
with my help.
Oh.
That sounds like a very Alfred thing.
That does sound like you're right, Chris. That's bang on.
Oh.
Go on, I'll let you answer. Go on.
Right, so on statue, really, I'm going to go Chris first, then me, then Duncan, then Adam.
How do you rank above me in stature?
I'm thinking physical outfit, because let's face it, you are the, Peter Griffin of Batman, aren't you, really?
I've lost a lot of weight. I have lost a lot of weight. You put us next to each other, I know who's going to weigh in heavier.
That's fine, that's not a problem, but I can't wear a batsuit and stand up.
Jeff, can we get a picture of us at the conference just so people can see?
No, because I've lost 2.5 stone since that conference.
Oh, okay. Should we move on to question 3? Because this is going really well. We work for the police. We've been tasked to go undercover into the English mafia. Sorry, I couldn't think of anything else. But from 1 to 4, who is most likely and least likely to succeed undercover and why? Okay. Duncan?
I think you do the best.
Okay.
Because you're vicious when you want to be. And I think you could quite happily put aside any moral apprehensions about kicking the shit out of someone to protect yourself. So I think you're number 1. Closely followed by Simon. Because he just mauled them with the wheelchair.
Okay.
Then Adam, and then myself. I think, yeah. I'd be the first.
I think your drinking would take you a long way.
I don't drink that much, though. I guess I can drink a lot without getting too affected. Yeah, okay, maybe, keeping that stature of things. All right, I'll take that.
Okay, let's go to Simon next.
What makes you think I'm not part of the British Mafia?
Because I didn't say British Mafia.
You already said
that. The English Mafia.
English Mafia, sorry. I mean, look at the house I've got and, all the fake cocaine I've got that I keep on posting. So, which is talcum powder, by the way. Adam.
It isn't fake, it's real cocaine. Come see us at the expo and we'll sort it out.
I mean, Adam really can't be part of the British Mafia. I mean, he's very distinctive and he's well known.
Not only that, if he's had a few drinks in him, he's telling everybody who he is. He wouldn't you know who I am, don't you? I'm Adam Pearson.
Shots fired.
I think Duncan would do quite well. I do.
I do.
Yeah, I think you put a little hat on him, and I think he'll fit right in. Yeah, give him a crowbar.
He has, if you put the right sort, is it a Trilby hat, or he has got a Walter Whitefield going for him.
I'll take that. That and the crystal meth lab I've got in the book garden, but
Yeah, but I think your Australian vibe would make you fit in.
Adam looks like he should be joining an Amish society.
That didn't go that well.
Not my week this week, boys. Not my week.
Okay. Let's go to Adam next.
I mean, I think Duncan's too nice to be in a mafia.
I'd like to think the same.
I reckon I'm too much of a pissoir to be in a mafia. I don't think I'm cut out for it. I think I'd be like, this is all really violent. Can't we just sit down and play? Can't we just all sit down and play a board game? And she's like, why are you yelling at me?
Guys, have you seen Magic the Gathering?
Why would anyone want to sleep with fishes? I don't understand these. I don't understand all these analogies. I don't have a sister, but yes, you can block it. Just leave me alone.
How do we keep on landing sponsorship deals?
I don't. And
It's one of life's mysteries.
And they've seen the show as well. They knew what they were getting. It's not like they bought like a blind bag action figure from Forbidden Planet. They knew exactly what the show was when they sponsored us. So I reckon then Simon and I reckon Chris would ace it in the Mafia. He is a man with nothing to lose and less fucks to give. I reckon he'd crush it.
Can I just cover my back for a minute here as well for a second? Because I realised, when I was really bad in bed a few months ago...
your wife tells me that's a frequent thing.
He walked straight into that.
For a laugh...
You fucking idiot. Jeff, loop that, please. Jesus Christ.
Oh, greatest husband ever. Yeah, whatever.
Right. Let him cover his back, apparently.
Oh, good Lord.
Hi, Kate.
Duncan's about to have a heart attack.
That was the funniest thing you've ever said, and you didn't mean to.
I was about to get at you for not taking this seriously. Oh, thank you, Simon.
Oh, dear.
Right.
Anyway, come back to... I know, because I've realised that a few months ago is that I, for a laugh, I get rashes down there in the private parts.
You're not helping. You're not helping.
Pressure sores.
I'm seeing a trend here.
I realised that I sent you a picture of me chopping up talcum powder on social media just for a laugh because you were taking the piss out of me thinking that I did cocaine. And it's... Anyway, welcome back, folks.
And that's the end of See You Next Tuesday.
That might be my favourite See You Next Tuesday of all time.
Oh, that was gold.
That wasn't made by me.
That was gold, and it's only going to get more gold because we at the Grumpy Gits are what I like to call people. We are a solution-orientated, forward-thinking group of fellas, and people acknowledge that, which is why they write to us. And someone else has written to us. Is that not right, Duncan Casburn?
This is very true. We've had a letter this week. I'll read the letter and we can go from there. I won't prep it too much. So, Dear Grumpy Gits, I need help on how to tell my best friend he shouldn't be driving. He's a very sensitive guy, and I'm worried that by telling him it would damage our friendship. This follows what can only be described as a disastrous start to a recent job with the courier service. He only kept the job for one day, and when you read this, you'll understand why this was. His job was in parcel delivery, and it was his first delivery that led to his first accident. He pulled into the driveway and got out and placed the parcel neatly at the front door. As he returned to his van, he realised that there was a telegraph pole adjacent to the driveway he'd just parked in. Rather than risk hitting said pole by reversing into it, he opted to instead attempt a 3-point turn, using the customer's garden. Being a small garden, the 3-point turn was instead a 20-point turn. Unfortunately, the recent rain had left the grass very soft, and the fully loaded van left a series of tyre tracks digging deep, and at one point the front wheels bogged down and he had to rev hard to get out. The problems sadly didn't end there. As a result of the revving, once he got the traction, the van reversed too quickly, and he managed to reverse into a wall separating the driveway from the adjacent property. This was a retaining wall, and the impact pushed the wall down onto the neighbour's carport, which duly collapsed onto their brand new Volvo. Undeterred, my friend pushed on, completing his umpteen-point turn to get his van pointing in the right direction, and at this point glanced back and realised that the number on the front door was incorrect, or rather that he'd actually gone to the wrong address. He climbed out, retrieved the parcel and returned to his van. Now content that he was safe to pull out, he left the driveway, and in doing so hit the telegraph pole on the way out anyway. This was the first of 4 incidents that day. He insists, however, that this was just bad luck, and is looking for more work doing delivery driving. How do I gently advise him that this is a bad idea without hurting his feelings?
Oh, wow. Who's your friend, Mr. Bean? Jesus.
Oh, I mean, how has he not been sacked?
He was. That was the problem.
He's still looking for driving jobs.
Yeah, no, he can't drive. Just, no. Give up your licence.
Facts aren't playing a factor here.
Clearly there's delusion involved here, isn't it?
Can't he be a cycle courier or do pizza delivery on a moped? Same thing, you know, Domino's.
That's just asking for trouble as well, though, isn't it? I mean, if you can't get out of a straight driveway without hitting a pole, a moped's only going to make things a lot worse.
I genuinely think this man is dangerous. Where was this letter from? Did they say what area that they live in, so I can avoid it at all costs?
No, they haven't mentioned the area. But the problem isn't so much, I think we all know the guy shouldn't be driving. The problem is, how does this guy let his friend know gently without ruining a friendship that he really shouldn't be driving?
So if he got sacked on his first day, does that mean all the Amazon Prime things didn't get delivered? Because I'm missing a few parcels.
Yeah, it could have been. I don't know. I don't have that much information on the actual thing.
That's lucky that you're missing a few parcels rather than your gate, wall, and everything else. If he had turned up. I don't think there's a gentle way. I think it's tough love. I think you literally have to lay it all on the plate, and I'd get angry and say it. I don't think there's any saving that friendship if there's a case of that.
I'd also just say it. I do like you're a shit driver. Why are you applying for courier jobs? Why?
It's the sequence of events, though. It's just the sequence of going in there. The whole thing just made. When I was reading it, I was in stitches because it's like the whole thing. He's got there. He's delivered the parcel. He's actually made a calculated thought. Oh, there's a pole, and I'd likely back into that. So attempting this huge 28-point turn or whatever it is in this guy's front garden, knocking over a wall, damaging the neighbour's house, destroying the garden, and then hitting the pole anyway on the way out going forwards. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
I think you should tell him, but maybe do it through a song.
What do you have any suggestions? Shut up and drive?
Okay, shut up and drive. I like driving in my car, but not with you. I tell you what, maybe you should not be driving.
Return to sender.
There we go. I think that's another soul save, gentlemen. I'm going to... Chuck, let us know how it goes, please. And if he takes it badly... That's on you.
Fair enough. And we want to hear your stories too. If you've got something you'd like to ask us your advice on, send them in. Tweet us, comment on the video, get us on Facebook, wherever. Send them in.
We will solve your problem. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Isn't that right? So, can I say that, Simon? Or do you think let's cover that?
No. We will give you advice on your issue. We cannot solve your problem for you.
Guaranteed. Anyway, moving on. Seamless transition there, lads. Seamless. That's why they pay me. Bit of a slow news week this week. Said no one ever. We have a new Prime Minister and a new King. How did we all find the announcement of the sad passing of Queen Elizabeth II. How are you feeling about it?
Shocked for me.
Yeah.
Shocked. A little bit surprised as well. Because I'm no fan of the monarchy. They're kind of there, but I'm not a fan. And when I heard the news, it kind of hit me in a way that I was quite surprised with. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to describe that feeling. It was almost like, it is a bit like shocked, like she's gone. But the silly part is that, what was she, 93?
96.
96? She was 96 years old. That's a hell of an age. Mm. So I don't know. I was a bit confused, but at the same time, I was surprised by the way I felt. So
yeah, I'd agree with that. It struck me in the way that I'm like you. I'm by no means what you call a monarchist, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for Queen Elizabeth. I think in the time that she's been in, longest reigning monarch, but she showed a side of royalty that you don't often see in different ways. Mm-hmm. And I always come back to the whole the Olympics and doing the whole thing with Daniel Craig for Bond and being prepared to put herself out there, like at her age, that's not so long ago. I gave a tremendous amount of respect for that, and I think she was, okay, for all the crap that's gone on in the last couple of years that she's had to deal with, she's remained quite stoically moral in it all. And I respect that. I really do. So whether I'm a monarchist or not, I have respect for the person. And I think it's really sad that she's passed away. And like you say, unexpected, even though she's at that ripe old age. I was getting a commentary here on it because Tracy was they're all running to Balmoral to see the Queen. They're all the family going. And within like 2 hours of this, suddenly she's passed away. It was a bit of a whirlwind.
It felt like the world held still while it was all going on. Yeah. Like one minute you're watching Bargain Hunt, and then it just cuts straight to BBC News, and they make the announcement that she's kind of taking a turn. There's grave concern for her medical well-being. Maybe she was already dead by that point, and they just wanted to get everyone there for like a press briefing before they announced it, and what have you. Because certain things have to be put in place straight away when a ruling monarch dies.
I got a text from some friends at the BBC saying London Bridge is down, which is code for the Queen has died, and that was about 2.5, maybe 3 hours before it was announced on BBC News. And the reason, it's just journalists talking in the background, what's going on, and the BBC newsroom was running around frantically, as was every other news organisation, News UK and so on and so forth, because while they do prepare for it in some degree, this is why we've got all the documentaries and so on and so forth, the people, the obituaries are already pre-done beforehand. You can't prepare for it. It's something that this country hasn't seen in our lifetime. She's been on the throne for all our lives, and the majority of the country doesn't know a different king or queen rather than Queenie too. So she's been there since the first email was sent, the first telephone call. She served in the war. She had a cracking sense of humour, and I think, although I don't agree with Boris Johnson whatsoever, I think Elizabeth the Great, that name will stick. But no, it's extremely sad. Of course it is. It's, Kate, my wife, we were watching the documentary and stuff, and she was in tears, and she cried quite a few times. I didn't quite get to that stage, but I was upset that she's gone. And Liz Truss just looked lost completely. I think Adam sent out a tweet last week. She said, "I never quit," says former Liz Truss Liberal Democrat.
That was me.
But apparently there's lots of Paddingtons around at the moment as well. And marmalade sandwiches.
They have asked people to stop leaving Paddingtons and marmalade. As mementos, is that the right word to use, or in memoriam? And there's now an actual list of things that you can and can't leave. And I get the marmalade because it's perishable and it spoils and what have you. But I've got no idea why someone can't leave a Paddington. no idea what all that's about.
There is one issue I would like to raise this week, which has really bugged me. So there's a bloke called Dan Wootton who does GB News. He presents a TV show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And a couple of years ago, he had a really big dig. He used to write the Sun. He used to do the Sun column entertainment page.
Showbiz, wasn't it?
Showbiz, yeah. And he had a really big dig at Meghan and Harry about setting up photo ops. And so he went down to Buckingham Palace to pay his respects, and he laid some flowers, and then he prayed. The problem is, someone was standing next to him and tweeted him saying, "I was standing next to you, and you took 4 takes doing it, yeah, and you weren't really showing any respect whatsoever." And then what's happened is what I think is brilliant is someone's reversed the video, okay, and it now looks like Dan Wootton is actually stealing flowers from the Queen, and that one has actually got more hits than the actual one he posted.
It's genuinely great. And who prays like that? Who prays like that? Wearing sunglasses.
That's what I was thinking.
You've got to leave room for the grief to go through.
Everything's coming together.
Unless it's flowing through your fingers.
Does it feel like, going back to GB News, that they're almost trying to emphasise that they're grieving the most for the Queen, like it's a competition?
That's been really apparent through a lot of things. It just seems everywhere's fighting to sort of show, well, we're showing the most respect. And it's almost without thought. It seems to not really, it's just almost to make a public statement that, hey, we're on this too. It's like a whole PR exercise.
And then, of course, you've got Centre Parks as well, who have jumped into that as well.
That is an awful move on their part. And now they're between a rock and a hard place. Because now if they stay open, they've got to kind of double down on the out of respect for Her Majesty. But by the same token, you are kicking holiday makers, some who are miles away from home, out onto the street with nowhere to go. And that's also not how holidays work.
I just think we need to announce what that is. So Centre Parks have announced today that because of the Queen's funeral on Monday, that on the 19th, that they are kicking people out. They're closing all their parks, even if people are in the middle of their holidays. So that means people have to go and find alternative accommodation. They can come back the following day on the Tuesday at 10 a.m. and carry on with the holidays, but there's going to be no staffing and the parks aren't going to be open.
And what's even better is that Butlins came out and was just like, yeah, we'll be open.
Is that true?
Butlins have openly stated that there'll be restricted services. So I'm guessing the first thing that's going to go is cleaning. If you haven't, I'll show you the pictures again.
Could you imagine them? Could you imagine them sitting around a table making this decision? Should we close the park in respect? Yeah, but what about the people here? We'll just throw them out for 24 hours. It's fine.
When you've got people who you are actually their accommodation, and it's it's right, closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. It just doesn't work. And I'm quite certain Queen Elizabeth would have been really
furious. She would have been furious,
knowing that her name's being used to promote this kind of idiocy. I think it says more about Britain at the moment than it does about the Queen.
Well, there we go. I'm sorry it was a bit of a heavy segment, but we'd be foolish and irresponsible to have not discussed it. We did put out a statement earlier in the week as well, sending our condolences. But yeah, weird week, guys. Really weird and emotional week. Winnie the Pooh, the A.A. Mills story, is now in the public domain. And when something becomes public domain, invariably, someone will either ruin it or make it better. Gentlemen, I sent you the trailer this week. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Simon Sampson, talk to me, my man.
Oh, it's a shameful public experiment. Clearly it's Winnie the Pooh in masks or whatever it is. I don't think it's actually Winnie the Pooh. I've seen the trailer. It's a really bad, cheap horror film who is trying to get a lot of publicity, and it's worked. You know, people are going to watch it. People are going to download it because it's Winnie the Pooh. I mean, let's make one thing clear. This is not Disney's Winnie the Pooh. Disney's Winnie the Pooh is copywritten. That can't be used. However, the original A.L. Milne story, the classic story, their representation is in the public domain, so therefore they can use the story. It's not owned by anyone at the moment, and you can buy the rights to it. And yeah, they've basically done it for publicity, done a really bad horror film, turned Winnie the Pooh and Piglet and Eeyore into monsters. And I will never watch it. Just to give you an idea, I love Winnie the Pooh. I collect the things from the Raw Mint, Winnie the Pooh classic coins. So I'm
it's hard to believe you're terrible in bed.
No, I'm never terrible in bed. And yeah, it should not. I wish the rights were better protected to protect a classic beloved story, but unfortunately, you know, this American person who was never brought up on Winnie the Pooh has just decided, let's make a film and use the title.
I disagree.
Sound offended at this, Simon.
I want to say I'm a huge Winnie the Pooh fan. Like, my dad used to read it to me. His mum used to read it to him. And it's something I've read to my kids. And I love Winnie the Pooh. My son currently loves Winnie the Pooh. He's absolutely adoring it. He loves watching it. I have to sing the Tigger song repeatedly at the moment. But it kind of comes into that realm of comedy to me, which is, where do you draw the line? What's off limits? And I saw the trailer when Adam sent it, and I just laughed. I thought it was hilarious.
Because it's the equivalent No, I'm sorry, Duncan. This is the equivalent of turning Paddington into a serial killer.
Yeah, exactly.
I fucking love that.
That would be fantastic.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
What's in the marmalade?
Someone needs to take that. Someone needs to take that stick out of Simon's arse, because those ideas sound amazing.
Brilliant.
Paddington as a serial killer? Are you kidding me?
Well,
I'd watch that in a second.
I sort of wrote something quite similar years ago, and was told that it's never going to see the light of day for various reasons, some of them legal and some of them moral. I was like, what if, rather than being found by a posh, well-to-do white family in London, Paddington was found by a single parent in like a rough part of Croydon? And there's a town just outside of Croydon called New Addington. So I wrote this thing, Addington Bear.
Nice.
I love it. See that?
Morning,
and that's just
morning, Paddington, said Mrs. Sewell. Shut the fuck up, you're not my mum, replied Paddington.
Simon genuinely looks offended at this.
I am. These are British classic institutions that should never be touched.
I'm sorry, no, I'm seeing it's Asbear.
I swear. I would love if they actually made a porno of them. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Fucking scrap them. It's awesome.
Well, he lends himself to that anyway, because he's like Winnie the Pooh. It's all top and no bottoms, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Easy access.
Easy access. Clearly, he's ready for the trains.
And if you can't get a dick pun out of 100 Acre Wood, you're not trying hard enough.
What I loved about it, though, is that Eeyore seems to be the mastermind. Eeyore's my favourite character from Winnie the Pooh. I really love Eeyore, and I just kind of love that he seems to be the mastermind behind the whole thing.
I do not think Blood or Honey will appear in the Royal Mint.
No, I don't. But I think this falls under like Sharknado.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's going to fall under that. It's going to be stoned teenagers eating munchies and watching Blood and Honey. That is going to be the go-to movie, and that's who it's for. Personally, I honestly, I won't see it. I won't see it myself. I don't really like horrors. but I can see where the appeal is, and I don't mind it coming out.
The only horror film I've ever liked, which I've never laughed so much at, is a film called Tucker and Dale versus Evil, where it's two hillbillies and there's school kids who go into the wood and they start accidentally dying because they think these hillbillies have kidnapped their friend and they try and rescue her.
I don't know if that's a horror though, is it? Isn't it a comedy?
It's a comedy horror.
I was looking forward to that being the horror version of Chippendale, to be honest. I thought that would really fit in with the whole thing of what we're doing. Because let's face it.
Now we've crossed the line. Now we're crossing. You do what you want to win. You keep Chippendale out of your mouth. You shut your whole mouth up.
Let's get DuckTales in on it as well.
I mean, that writes itself.
Can you imagine a horror film of gummy bears?
Oh, Care Bears! Oh my gosh, the Care Bears horror film has to be made.
Yeah. May I suggest that I don't know what the wager is. I don't know what we're going to bet on, Simon, but I think we should make a bet. And if I win, when we come to yours, you have to watch Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Oh.
No, that's never going to happen.
Why? Make the bet then.
Of what? What do I get?
I'm not entirely sure, actually. Adam hasn't said.
Make me an offer.
Okay. At Disability Expo in July, you have to do the panel in your underwear.
Done.
That's such a... Yeah, we have to sit next to him. It's in July next year, and we're down at Christmas, so we won't even know the bet. Can't we do a battle of minds? I mean, you two both say that you're one's smarter than the other. Why not put it to the test?
Oh, shall we do a film quiz?
Or just a general quiz?
Oh, just a general knowledge quiz.
I like how you're already stacking the deck in your favour. Should we do a quiz about me?
It's Mensa Mind versus Mastermind.
This
has to happen. We've got to do a special on this.
I'm not a member of Mensa anymore.
Anymore. No. My membership was revoked after it turned out that I'd had too many drugs.
Who's your money on, Duncan?
Oh, I'm going Adam. I'm actually going Adam. I think Adam's general knowledge. I think Simon's probably smart in areas, but I think Adam's general knowledge is probably greater.
Well, there we go, Simon. I'd start getting ready to watch Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
I'm going to enjoy your nakedness on stage.
Don't think I won't make Kate watch it too, because I will. Simon.
You're just putting your foot in it everywhere today, Simon. You're really going to enjoy seeing Adam naked.
It's the drugs. It's the drugs, mate. I'm still, yeah.
He is tripping the balls. So about a week and a half ago, we put out a video across all the Grumpy Gits socials for our new segment, Simon Says. Public domain. Well, hey, Simon Says, Blood and Honey. Just talking about access to work and the situation it's in at the moment, and what knock-on effects that has for not only disabled people, but people who are also employed under access to work. And the whole thing is truly a catastrophe right now. So we threw a video out there. We asked for your feedback. We've got a couple of really good bits that we're gonna talk about. For right now, Simon, bring us all up to speed with the access to work situation.
Yeah, so Access to Work employs hundreds of thousands of people across the UK. It's there to help people with disabilities into work, but it also employs people who act as carers and personal assistants as well. There's roughly about 70,000 people acting as personal aides to people with disabilities, but also hundreds of thousands of people are employed as carers to people who go to work. It also provides equipment for people with dyslexia, autism, and so on and so forth. So it's there to make your life easier. It pays for transport to work, and so on and so forth. So it's a really important subject and affects a lot of people across the country. However, After putting out this video, we did get a few replies, and I've personally had issues with this, and the reason for it is taking up to 20 weeks to authorise an assessment. So that means, for example, if you want an assessment done in March, okay, they won't let you apply until your renewal runs out. But if it's taken 20 weeks, that means you've got to apply at the end of August. So that means carers and the personal aides aren't being paid by Access to Work. They're actually being paid out of the own pockets of the people who are employing them. And so, for example, it's costing the person with a disability thousands of pounds in debt every time they want to employ a carer. Access to Work has been designed by people who don't have disabilities, and it's one of the only few that actually rely on the postal service. So on top of all this, I've spoken to the Disability Policy Centre, who advised the government, and we are going to be having a meeting with the government to try and get this issue resolved, because Celia Hensman, who runs the Disability Policy Centre, is also employs a carer and has a severe disability, and she's got the same issue as well, where she's got to pay out thousands of pounds and then reclaim it back because it's taken so long for this process to go through. Thoughts?
Well, as someone who's in the freelance gig economy, I've got a lot of other disabled friends who are journalists and producers and what have you. And so when you're freelance, you're going to go through it for every single job. And it's done on a job-to-job basis. And I think they could streamline the whole thing by just attaching the claim to the person rather than to the role. The whole online thing absolutely needs to change. And it's, like you said, it's been designed by non-disabled people who've got no idea how the system works when you're a user. When you're a designer, rock and roll, but when you're a user, it's a very different experience and a very different interface. And one of the comments that we got that I thought was really interesting, I hadn't thought about it until I read it. The lack of input from occupational therapists in the whole thing is a problem, but also if that input was there, it could solve a lot of these problems that you mentioned. Where do you stand on that, Simon?
I do believe occupational therapists could solve a lot of issues. They are tremendous to anyone with a disability, and they can do assessments as well, so it would help out tremendously. I mean, we've got a message from MD_Walker79 who said, where do I start with Access to Work? The excuses just keep on coming. Access to Work are working from home. How is this still possible? Access to Work still relies on paperwork and the postal service. Surely the government shouldn't be allowed to do this. It's a system that is completely broken and doesn't work at all.
It strikes me, it smacks to me of the whole nothing for us without us element that we've talked about on this before. It's something that you hear a lot in autistic circles, and decisions being made on behalf of autistic people without their involvement or consultation. And it seems to be an endemic thing with that. Something else though. Is there a shortage of OTs at the moment? Is that something that's a nationwide issue?
I honestly don't know. There is a shortage of specialists in every department in the NHS. Doctors, nurses, I would have thought OTs as well.
The reason I ask is because I spoke... My wife was in at the doctor's, and a lady was just in front of her in the queue, basically, to speak to reception, whose father has just had a heart attack. He's in hospital. He wants to come home. He's been told, you're going home to pass away, basically. He wants to be at home. They won't let him home without an occupational therapist, having checked the home to make sure it's okay first. It's been something like 6 weeks he's been stuck in hospital because they can't release him until that's been done. And there's nothing there. And I mean, the doctor's surgery were appalling. They were just, just go and Google it. It was like no referring to any of the local carers, charities or anything like that. Thankfully, my wife was behind her and she said, here's my husband's number, call him tonight. He's an ambassador for Devon Carers, so we'll get it sorted for you. I was able to help her, but the reality is that this is, it seems to be an endemic problem that goes well beyond just the work side of things, because you also bring into it education. I spoke to Rowena Brewer a couple of weeks ago on my PDA Dad channel about the fact that a lot of what we expect in workplaces, so things like this system that's there to assist people, and there's nothing of the sort that takes place in schools for people who've been forced in, and the schools bill going through is going to fine parents $2,500 if their children dip below 97% attendance for whatever reason. If you've got school refusers, that's awful. This whole thing seems to be just spreading throughout. And yeah, it's access to work. It's access to education. It's access.
Yeah, I mean, occupational therapist in the workplace takes a long time, and it costs a lot of money as well. And so they don't like doing it because where the NHS, obviously, they're employed through the NHS. I've seen occupational therapists in their posh buildings, in their glass houses, assessment centres, and the money privately compared to the NHS is phenomenal. And so NHS occupational therapists, when you discharge from hospital, you've got to be seen by a doctor, a social worker, and an occupational therapist to make sure everything's in place for a safe discharge. Otherwise, it's classed as an unsafe discharge. Where in the workplace, if you need a chair or you need equipment or whatever, again, you need to see an occupational therapist, and it costs an absolute arm and a leg, and a lot of people don't want to pay it. It should come under the insurance, but not everyone has insurance, especially if you're a small company, to cover this. And there are obviously a lot more small companies in this country than there are big companies. So it's, where do you start with it? I mean, when I was working, I had to have a specialised chair. I'm dyslexic, so I had a reader as well to help me out. And it took months to get this sorted. Absolute months. And this is going back 10, 12, 15 years. So where we are now, getting an assessment done through occupational therapist or through access to work, 20 weeks to get your assessment approved. And that's, if someone's employed a carer £15 an hour for 25 weeks, that's, £4,500 out of someone's pocket. For $5,000 or whatever it is, 20 weeks worth of wages that someone isn't paying, or access to work isn't paying. It's just outrageous. And I have spoken to a number of people who said their businesses have gone bust because of it. They can't be self-employed because access to work isn't getting their shit together, and therefore they've had to close down their own business. They were self-employed. So it's just shameful.
So there we go. Access to work. If you're watching this, we're not here to bash you, but we're here to help. We're a good sounding board, and if you can't get your S word together, we're here to help. Anyway, gentlemen, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you all very much as always for your time. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you three and put the world to rights. Chris Lee Smith, if people want to find you online, how can they do so?
At The Real Grump Dad on Twitter.
Duncan Casburn, how can the good people find you?
At PDA Dad UK on pretty much any socials.
And Simon Sampson, how can the good people get hold of you?
Ability Access on Facebook, Twitter, Simon Sampson1 or Ability Access, and obviously Snowball, Freeze My Ball on Twitter. And I'm not bad in bed.
we have testimony. Just can't predict that. The episode.
Roll the clip, Jeff. Roll the clip.
Roll the clip.
Can I just cover my back for a minute here as well for a second? Because I realised, when I was really bad in bed a few months ago...
your wife tells me that's
always
frequent
been that. He walked straight into that.
There we go. And I am at Adam_Pearson on the old Twitter there. Follow us, hit like, hit subscribe, do all that jazz that I meant to say to get our metrics up. And we will see you all on the next episode. And as always, don't be grumpy alone. Take care. Mwah.